Mteto, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sitting down with us today. And also a big love for the fact that you're speaking at the Suits and Sneakers event. I wanted to take a little bit of a moment to get to know Mteto a little. And the question I've been dying to ask you first and foremost is, here is this very successful man. I personally view you as a humble person who gets the job done. But I'd love for you to give me a little bit of context as to how we arrive here. Where did you grow up? And how does Mteto Nyati come to be the person he is today?
Yeah. No, first, thank you so much for having me here. I come from the Eastern Cape, and I come from a very large family. It's like I've got 9 siblings. And if you then combine with both of my parents, it's like a big family of 12, and coming from that environment, it was a great environment to grow up with so many people, huge amount of diversity, and that kind of helped me to be able to deal with the kind of diversity that I see, when I left my family. So because we're so huge, the number of, children, there were so many of us there, my mother decided to start up this trading store. She used both of my parents were teachers. And she said, no, there's no way that we can support these children, this big family from our salaries. She then decided to go cash her pension, took her pension, started up this trading store. And we grew up in that store, know. And that's what we were doing. 4 o'clock in the morning, we're off going to get some fresh produce somewhere. It could be bread, it could be vegetables, it could be anything, so that when people come to the shop at 6, 7 o'clock, everything is ready, everything is fresh. So growing up in that environment, it just teaches you some discipline. Yeah. And watching also my mother, she was such a great person when it comes to managing her own employees in that shop. Listening to them, taking their ideas, incorporating everything, and also how she treated the customers. That has been the thing that shaped my life. If you look at everything that I do today, there's always a focus around customers and a focus around employees. Both of that comes from my growing up in that shop.
It almost sounds like that store was your first MBA.
Yes, it was. It was we're doing pricing, looking at everything, doing your stock taking, looking at it now, I said, I got such a lot from that, but it was a pain because all of the adult children are busy running around and playing elsewhere, and we are behind the counter and serving clients,
I can totally see how that upbringing shaped where we are today. Yeah. But I'm curious, where does the leap happen from the Eastern Cape to a place like Gauteng? How did you kind of jump? I assume you finished school, and then kind of what happened?
Yeah, so I went to a school, a very good school in the Eastern Cape in Mteto called St. John's College.
Okay.
And when I was doing my grade 12 there, during that time, we used to write this called Science Olympiad. All students across South Africa used to write this math and science and biology exam.
Okay.
And the top students would then go and represent South Africa in the UK, right? So the top student across race, across everybody, and I was one of those top students in 1980. So I left South Africa, the first one from my family to get into a plane, come to Johannesburg, go overseas, then get exposed there to all sorts of careers. I did not even have a clue of engineering. I was in grade 12, but I had no understanding that there was any career called engineering, But coming from the UK, it was very clear to me that that's where I need to go. Engineering is my thing, in particular mechanical engineering. So it exposed me. And because of that, I got accepted at University of Natal to go and do mechanical engineering there. So that, and immediately at Natal University, I got connected again because of this scholarship that I got. In my first year, I got connected to Afrox. So that's now the connection coming to Johannesburg. So they set up and they said they'll pay you for my studies for 4 years, and after completing, I had to come and work for them. So that's the connection getting to Johannesburg.
It just shows you, right, the power of what an opportunity can do for almost anybody.
Yes.
Like, most people don't need a handout. They just need to be exposed to the idea that there is something bigger, and then they just need one small opportunity. I mean, if you look at from that to here, what a prime example of what giving someone an opportunity can do.
Absolutely. I mean, when I look at it, many people say, oh, no, yes, I come from the rural area, but all I wanted, that it is all what anybody wants really, are opportunities, And that's why I wrote this book called Betting on a Ducky. Again, here I'm just saying that people want opportunities. People are not looking for handouts, People want opportunities. When I talk about my career, my whole life there, I'm just demonstrating how, when given an opportunity, what people can do.
So was Afrox the first job that you had post-university, or where did you go from
Yes. Even whilst I was doing my studies at university, I used to go do, vacation work. So I started there wearing overalls all the way. Then I did my 7 years in Afrox. 7 years, more than the 4 years that they funded me. Then moved to Testic Rice Corporation. So one of my human resource managers in Afrox left for Tiger Brands. He then recruited me to go and join Tiger Brands, and that's why I ended up with Testic Rice Corporation.
Now, ever since then, you've had quite a meteoric rise.
Yes.
Right. I mean, if you just look at the companies that you've worked in and run, it's remarkable. Those two that you mentioned, then Microsoft.
And Microsoft, then MTN.
Yes, that's right.
Then Altron.
Yes. And now you've kind of settled into this role with BSG.
Like IBM as well, because I spent 12 years at IBM.
Wow.
And 4 of those 12 years, I was in Europe,
Wow.
And I was based in Paris, but the role was a Europe, Middle East, Africa role. So I happened to be there, but I was traveling across Europe and across Africa as well.
So when you look back at your own career and you think about how you've managed to keep rising through these various roles, what are some of the characteristics, or what are some of the things that you attribute that rise in success to? Because that's quite remarkable. You could have stayed at those levels. You could have been a really good middle manager doing some cool things, but clearly from there you had this knack and a thirst to shoot up. What do you attribute that rise to?
I think first and foremost, one of the things that I always try and do, I'm never confused who I work for. If I've got a manager, I don't try and compete with my manager.
Wow.
I know that my job is really to make this manager look good. And what has that done is that each time some of these people move, they always know some of the people that they can count on.
Yes.
Right? So, and you end up having people that are able to say good things about you in your absence. That's what many people do not have. You want to have people that can be able to say positive things about you in your absence. But that depends on how you show up, how you do things, So for me, I focus largely on that, delivering. delivering and never being confused who I work for, you know. And that has helped me because it's through that I get pulled. I never go and apply for a job.
Yes.
Jobs comes to me.
Yes, you magnetize those jobs.
Yes, yes.
So now when you look back today, you look back at your life, do you feel proud of what you've done? Is it something you think about a lot?
I don't think about it a lot. I think about it in the sense that I kind of like, I think this is how it should always be, you know. And if you apply yourself, this is how things should be,
yes.
you know. And I would be surprised that I would not be here given what I've done,
yes.
you know. Yes, I would be shocked.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So shifting tack a little, I mean, you had your stint in Paris. I assume there were many potential opportunities for you to settle anywhere in the world. I assume opportunities come your way. What has kept you in South Africa? What do you love about South Africa?
So I get then called back into South Africa, and here I've got my daughter and my wife. They kind of like enjoying their time, you know, in Europe a little bit, and we get called back here to come and sort certain things. I was still with IBM at the time. Anyway, I come back and fix that business, which was the services business of IBM. And we hit a point here where there is no other place to go in South Africa, you know, except for the top job within IBM. And I have a discussion with my CEO, and then he says, look, I'm not going anywhere, you know, so you need to be the one who leaves South Africa. And then I get this job in the US at the time. I get this offer to go to the US, and then we pack our things as a family. We're about to go, and I'm like feeling bad that I'm actually going the wrong direction. Where I should be, the excitement is in emerging markets. You know, that's where most of the stuff, where there's chaos, there's really great opportunity. You know, why am I going this direction? As I was doing that, I was thinking about this, and then I get a call from Microsoft, say, hey, we've got a problem here in Microsoft South Africa. I abandoned that whole thing of going of course, that was not a good thing for my family. My family was like, I mean, they were sold. So I was the most terrible person. But for me, it's really about the opportunities there. It's also about development. You know, where if the impact, the societal impact of my work is here. You know, that's where the most need is. So going that direction, it just did not make sense to me. Plus, really, I've traveled a lot. South Africa is still really a great country. Mm-hmm.
You know, I find I'm an avid traveler, and the more I've traveled, the more I've wanted to be based in South Africa. Yes. I've realized that sometimes when we're here, we don't realize how good we have it in certain instances. Yes. And even though there are a lot of problems, we don't see how many problems exist on the other side too. So I kind of really resonate with that. Do you go home much back to the Eastern Cape, and how do you feel?
I used to, up until, of course, when I lost both of my parents, and now I no longer really have the connection back
yes.
there, because my parents were travelers. They were, and I'm calling them, they were nomads. I would call them more nomads. You know, my dad used to go and start a school in a particular area. It gets to a particular point. When it is self-sufficient, he moves on and go and start another school somewhere. So where we ended up, it's not like there's all Nyatis are there. You know, we're just the only family there. So when both of my parents are gone, there's nothing really that pulls me back here,
yeah.
back there. Plus, it's so sad to go and look at what has happened in Transkei, the old Transkei. It's just the state, the infrastructure, everything has just gone backwards, and it's just not. It's not good for my soul, honestly.
Which I can understand.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of glimpse over your time at Altron and even BSG, where we're sitting here today. Because, you know, about 2 years ago and a bit, you then get this call to come be part of Eskom. Yes. And I'm wondering how, I don't assume that this was something you were particularly wanting to do at the time or aiming for, but you landed up taking the role of chair in the end. And why?
I think first and foremost, when you get that call, in this case it was the president giving me a call, he then asked me, can I meet you the following day? And you then ask yourself, why would the president be? And then you get to the conclusion that it's probably linked to Eskom. And so already in your mind, okay, how am I going to, assuming that I'm being offered something in Eskom, how will I respond to that?
Yes.
And the question is, can you do it? You know, I had to ask myself the question: do I have what it takes to be able to deliver? And when I look back into all of my career, I realized that actually most of my experience talk to the challenges that are in Eskom. Of course, I had assumptions. I had to make assumptions of what those problems are. Yes. Then, and I'm reflecting and I thought, okay, here is my experience. This is what I think the problem is. How does my experience talk to these challenges? I realized that it does. So I can add value. Fine. Then the next thing, what is it that can stop me from being successful there? It's interference, it's all of this thing. Okay, how do I manage that risk? Yes. So as I'm going to have the discussion with the president, I need to make sure that I have that as a discussion point. Will we be given the space for us to do what we think we can do as a team? You know, so those are the kind of discussions. And then there's a safety issue as well, because you pick up, you know, hearing from Andre at the time, you pick up that there were all of these issues. How will I be able to handle that, you know? And so then you realize, okay, listen, I'll have to go and figure it out whilst I'm in there, in that environment. But for me, what was key is that I think most of the problems that we have in our country, we've got solutions to those problems. So it comes from that thing, saying we can never give up on our country. We've got capable people that can fix this country. We need to go and show that these things can be done. You know. So I was coming from that thing. I'm looking at the investment that I've made in BSG and say, if we do not fix Eskom, this investment in BSG is going to amount to nothing, because Eskom is such a key element of the entire economy. So when I had that discussion with my partner in BSG, it was not even an issue, because fixing Eskom, we knew that it would be a positive thing for this company, BSG.
You know, I admire it, because in my mind, you went from the private sector, and I'm sure you have some detractors no matter who you are and what you do, even though you did phenomenally well. But moving into Eskom is a whole different beast, because now it's in the public domain. Everyone and their dog has an opinion about what the problem is and who should fix it. And any move you make, and your team, not just you, but any move you guys make toward trying to fix something is going to be scrutinized. And if I look at just the last 2 years, just social media, which I know is not the ideal, but people have so much ugly stuff to say to anybody involved, including you. So I assume that must have featured in you knew you were going to go into that.
But I never knew that it's going to be at that scale.
Yes.
You know, I'm someone who is quite familiar and is involved in social media. So I kind of know, but I never knew that it can be that. I mean, the scale is like at a different level in Eskom compared to all of the companies. I used to work for MTN, you know. I used to think that environment, you are touching so many people, yes. Everybody has got an opinion, you know, we've got how many subscribers, you know, 30 million subscribers, yes. Plus at the time, you know. So those subscribers have got opinions.
Yes.
But here, you've got like the whole country has got a view, right?
Yeah. And because I think people have obviously been dragged down over the years, load shedding was at the time a 17-year-old or 18-year-old problem. So I can understand part of it, but you know, the whole Eskom ordeal, we would not have enough time in the universe to get into it today. But I found it remarkable what you and the team have done. A large part of what we'll be talking about at Suits and Sneakers is around that topic. So I don't want to get into that, but I guess my question is, where you're at now, you've done all these incredible things, you're still involved with BSG, you're involved with Eskom, there's still a lot of work to do, but a lot has been done. Yeah. But what then gets you excited about the future? Do you think a lot about where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing in 5 or 10 years, or are you just kind of focused on where you're at now?
No, I'm someone who thinks way ahead, you know, on almost everything, you know. I think ahead, and where we are right now, you know, I remember when we landed in Eskom, one of the first things that this board decided to do was to ask to be given the space to be able to understand what the issues are. What are the systemic issues facing Eskom? You know, let's not be running around like headless chicken or being like firefighting. No, that's not going to help us anyway. Yes. Let's focus. What are the things? And we came up with 9 things to fix, you know. And where we are now is largely because we focused, not trying to do everything, focus on a few things. Out of those 9, we prioritize really 4 things, you know, the debt situation, corruption issue, and the whole thing about the organizational culture in Eskom, and then the reliability of the equipment of the plant. Those were really the things that we focused on, and those were the things that took us to where we are now. About 2 weeks ago, we had our strategy session. How nice it is to listen to management thinking 10 years, 20 years ahead. I mean, this is a team that would not be thinking about, they were thinking about the next minute, right? You know, and now these are people are so confident about the future, being led by a really, really inspiring CEO as in Dan. You know, this is a team that now say, okay, we need to compete. We are not afraid of competition. Instead of trying to stop competition, say, bring that competition on. There is no other entity in this country that have got the expertise that we have as a company here in the energy space. There's none. You know, so bring that competition on. When you're thinking about innovation, we are the leaders in innovation. So that's what this team is saying. That's where, you know, that gets me excited, you know, because that can only be good. Competition is ultimately good for all of us as citizens. We're talking about the tariffs are being high up. The thing that is going to be driving the tariffs down is this competition. And it's also coming, how can we do things differently? Embracing new sources of energy, you know, generation, you know, renewables, nuclear, this, you know. And that's what excites me. When I look at this team and I look at how passionate they are and how they are setting this business to be back to the business that it used to be I think it was 2008 or something like that, when it was recognized as one of the leaders in the world, you know. So that gets me excited. But BSG also gets me excited, you know. And as things settle in Eskom, I'm actually pulling away and focusing more and more into BSG. And that's the baby that I'm really now putting most of my energies behind.
You know, it's so funny to sit on this side interviewing you. When we start talking, there's a calmness in your disposition as we're talking about where you come from, and you're excited. And then when you get onto this topic, it's like you come alive. It's the same thing I noticed with Bruce Whitfield, or the interview that you did with Bruce Whitfield at The One. I love it. I think it's giving other people permission to do the same. From my end, I just want to kind of close off with, you know, are you feeling excited about the broader direction that South Africa as a whole is going in? We've got our problems for sure, but how are you feeling about South Africa moving forward?
I think the people of South Africa, they've made the right decision with ending up with the configuration that we have, this configuration of a GNU. For me, when I look back at what has been successful, the formula for success, look at all of these companies that I've worked for. At the core of it, diversity. Bringing different perspectives, bringing different views, Anything that links to bringing, look at Springboks,
So much better together for the diversity.
Diversity. And then look, Bafana Bafana is doing well, but there is not much diversity there, right? So you can see that immediately you infuse and bring some diversity, there is something that comes out, And I've seen this in many, many times in companies. It's because problems of today are so complex. You need to be looking at them from different angles, from different perspectives, right? So bringing people that are coming from different backgrounds, but looking and trying to solve one common problem, but coming from different angles, can only be a good thing for our country. So this structure called GNU is actually a great thing. It's a great thing for this country, and I'm excited about South Africa. I'm excited. I can see there's already, see internal competition there. Again, you want competition. You want competition. You want people to, when you don't work, when you don't apply yourself, it's going to show. And you are going to, everybody's going, what is happening to that ministry? And that's what we want. And we can then start to hold people accountable. So I'm excited about where we are.
Mteto, I could chat to you for hours because I think that you're in a really unique position. I love chatting to people who don't just have a lot to say, but they got the track record. And I'm glad you didn't bring up retirement quite just yet. I think you've got so much, you've got so much to add. If I just look at it from someone who only now is getting to know you personally, but before, the role that you play is so important, not just in the companies that you've been a part of, but even today, hearing where you come from, how you've moved through, what it does for me is it gives other people in your position permission to do something similar. Yes. We need it. People of color aren't going to be that excited about Mark Sham kicking through, but when they see where you've come from and what you've done, and also seeing how you've gone from this position and this company to that, it's like there's clear, no one-trick pony, moves, serves, has this great knack for helping move things forward, and I think South Africa needs it. My request to you would be to hang in there with us long term, because we've got a long way to go. But if we've got people like you with the skills, the experience, but also the way that you just seem to bring people together, the way that you seem to bring the best out of people, we just need more people like that. So from me to you, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me the time today. It certainly helped. This is like a twofold interview. One, it's me getting to know you a little and practicing for the big night, but it actually is really educational for me to understand where you've come from and what makes you tick. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to when we meet. Is it a few weeks' time?
3 weeks time.
3 weeks' time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.